Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The show starts in 3, 2, 1, go.
Good morning, CaneSport. It's November 3rd, 2021. I'm Gary Ferman, the publisher of CaneSport.com, joined by our managing editor, Matt Shodell, as we discuss the news of the day. And Matt, I thought we would start today just because we have so much coverage on him. It's really kind of crazy. But our man TVD, TV Dimes, they're calling him now. He's got nicknames. The talk of the town, Tyler Van Dyke, because of the way he's played the last couple of weeks. And we talked a little bit on yesterday's show. We had a chance to talk to Rhett Lashley about him. And today we take it to the next level. And we find out that he's actually also been working with former Miami quarterback Malik Rozier, which kind of came out of left field today or yesterday rather. And, Malik seems to be helping him a lot. Like they're spending, sounds like about 90 minutes a week going over game film and reviewing everything that Tyler Van Dyke is thinking step by step by step. And it's really a big help to Tyler because Rhett Lashley is limited in the number of hours that he's allowed by NCAA rules to work with Tyler. And this gives Tyler an extra sounding board and an extra guy that's been in the fray and been in the battle to review everything with and just go step by step through his progressions. What are you thinking? Why did you make this decision? And it seems obviously to be resulting in success.
Yeah, I mean, nothing negative at all about it. I was just surprised, when Malik first reached out this summer to see, if Tyler had a quarterbacks coach, I was sort of surprised when the answer came back, no, Tyler doesn't have a quarterbacks coach. Because, in the modern day, nobody's self-taught or only is taught by the offensive coordinator or quarterbacks coach. Because, like you said, there's limited amount of time they can spend, especially in the offseason. Every top quarterback has a quarterback guru, my fingers are never in the picture, that helps them. So I don't know how to put it, but Tyler Van Dyke is still a raw talent because of that. He didn't have this guy like these California quarterback gurus have, or these Atlanta quarterback gurus have. He had nobody. He just does this on his own. He's just a great athlete in high school who played baseball. And he was talking about arm angles today, how baseball helped him with football. He's not talking about, my quarterback coach really helped me throughout high school and getting ready for this. No, because he just did it on his own. That's how good this kid is. All it is pure arm talent. You read that Malik Rozier story from yesterday, and you'll definitely get the sense that, this kid's, sort of not doing a lot of stuff right, mechanically, but, that's how good he is. Feet are pointing the wrong way, still gets the ball there. Doesn't use his legs to throw, just uses his arm. Ball gets there on a dime, his new nickname. I mean, it's amazing. Think about it when he's actually been coached up, fully, not just by Rhett Lashley. Like I said, look, Rhett's done obviously a great job with the concept stuff, which is what Malik says. When it comes to concepts, that's Rhett's job. But Rhett doesn't have the time to do all the mechanical stuff every single day with every single quarterback on the roster or the starter or this guy or that guy. That's just not how it works. You don't have enough time in the day. It's preparing for the next game. And you have 15 spring practices. You can work on that, but he's got a full offense to run. Rhett Lashley. It's not just about one kid and that's the quarterback. You got to spend all your time with him. So it makes it all the more remarkable to me. Talking to Malik Rozier yesterday, how good Tyler Van Dyke is. I thought he was amazing. Now I think he's even more amazing because he's done it on his own. It's just a savant. He's just he doesn't do it right, but it's amazing what he does. I'm just so excited to see the future with this kid.
Now, I will say this, and Rhett Lashley alluded to this when we talked to him Monday. He's a work in progress. This is just the beginning of Tyler Van Dyke. And, we talked with Malik about, the mechanical things that are a little astray and things like that he's getting away with right now. That doesn't mean he's always going to be able to get away with it. And it doesn't mean he's always going to be able to get away with it against every team they play and every level of competition. And each week brings different matchups and things. And you take Georgia Tech, Virginia Tech, these teams, Florida State, they're going to try to come after him. They're going to try to make him uncomfortable. How are those mechanics going to work with a team that's able to consistently make them uncomfortable. And, these are all things that'll be determined in the future. But obviously phenomenal last couple games by Tyler, despite any of these mechanical things that he might still need to work on. And, you'd like to think that he can continue to build on it. But it's great that he's working as hard as he's working. It's great that he's as humble as he is. And I think that everyone's really going to enjoy reading the story on Malik Rozier and Tyler Van Dyke's relationship and how they're working together. And then also we had Malik on CaneSport Live last night. So I urge everybody to go back. And if you didn't listen to the show last night, listen to the podcast and hear Malik in his own words also talking more about what he's seeing from Tyler Van Dyke and maybe how he can relate that to his own experience when he was breaking through as a college quarterback and how much he always had to continuously learn. So recommend you guys check that stuff out as well. Also on the website today, we have the Tyrique Stevenson blog. And man, Tyrique, I'm telling you, Matt, I think I've been saying this last few weeks actually, is playing incredible football. I mean, this is why they brought Tyrique to Miami, to provide this type of stability to the secondary. Can you imagine what this Miami secondary would look like right now if it didn't have the stabilization of Tyrique Stevenson at one cornerback? I mean, it wouldn't be pretty.
Yeah, I mean, Tyrique started off the year super slow and struggled in fall drills, quite frankly. You and I were both like, I don't know if this is going to work. And like the last 3 to 4 games, man, it's just whatever it is he's figured it out. I think he was like he was in this thing where he was like gambling a lot. Like he's a guy who is very, into his mental game and likes to study film. But the way he processed it, early in the year was like when he saw something he thought he knew, he would jump on it instead of like sort of being a little more patient. And a double move beat him real bad early in the year. I think he learned from that a lot. Because now you see him being more patient. Like that interception he had, for instance, the last game, that was not a gamble by him. He literally told us, like, I knew I had Gervin Hall right behind me in case it didn't work, Whereas early in the year, he was taking gambles with no safety help. So, like, he's being a lot smarter in his play. He understands, like, he's not quick enough to hang out with, to hang right on these smaller receivers. He can jam them and sort of get them off their routes a little bit. So he's figuring out how to work his way with his body type and what he has skill-wise and mentally against these receivers. And I mean, it's looked so good, and he's only getting better from here, right? So yeah, I mean, without him, I think Pickett might have thrown for 800 yards. So yeah, thank God they have Tyrique Stevenson.
Well, you mentioned training camp, and you're right. We did observe that in training camp, and I think a big part of the reason for that, Matt, was he hadn't played outside corner since high school. And at Georgia, they weren't using him like that. That's part of the reason why he came to Miami. And I think it took him a few weeks, I mean, more than a few weeks if you count the spring also, but it took him a little time to get fully acclimated to being an outside corner. And I think we're seeing him kind of, getting in stride now, and he's building performance on top of performance. Again, the question for him, and I think we talked about this last week also, is where's he going to be at the end of the year? And is that going to be enough to go to the NFL this year? Does he come back one more year? I'm not sure that we can comment on that yet. I'm not sure we're there yet. I mean, he still has 4 more regular season games, possibly an ACC championship game, not out of the question, and then also a bowl game to play. So he's got, probably 5, possibly 6 games left to play, a lot more tape to put up for the NFL scouts. And I think by the end of the year, they'll be able to give him a good read on where he stands and whether he's ready to go into the league. All right, another story we have on the website today is Xavier Restrepo. And this is a guy that in fall camp we talked about a lot. Like, we saw the development of Restrepo. We saw him busting out. He was catching balls at every practice, was clearly a guy that was about to emerge on this team. And really, I mean, in the Pitt game, I think he had 7 catches. Let me just double check that really quick here. Let's see, do I have the Pitt stats here? No, I don't have them in front of me here, but I think he had 7 catches in the Pitt game. And is so reliable, and he catches the ball, does the right thing, runs the right routes. I think you would agree Xavier Restrepo has become an important part of this offense.
I mean, yeah, to the point that, like, I honestly think he might be the second best receiver on the team. I mean, he's a guy who should be getting 5 to 8 catches a game, 70 to 110 yards a game. He's not going to be a red zone threat. He's a deep threat, catches everything. I mean, when he dropped one pass, which he shouldn't even have caught, I mean, a diving effort, it bounced off both his hands, both his fingertips. A couple of weeks ago, he came back after the game and went straight to the practice facility, laid down a mat, and practiced the exact same dive to catch the ball 20 straight times. I mean, this is a kid who works his butt off. You don't want to bench Mike Harley, but like, I would love to see Rhett Lashley at least work this into the game plan, where you either take out the tight end or take out the running back and just go with 4 wide and have your 3 starting wides and put Mike on one slot and put him on the other, because like, he's just too good to play half the game. It's another one of these situations where this heavy rotation thing, like, if he's your second best receiver, he just happens to be the same position as Mike Harley. Like, you've got to figure out a way to get this kid playing 75% of the snaps. You just got.
You're going to put on the bench. I mean, you're going to tell Harley you can't play anymore. He was your top.
No, but you got to figure out a way to take out a tight end here and there to just spread out. Even if you're not using the back on one play, I don't know. You got to figure it out.
I mean, they're using Will Mallory to block on the bubble screens.
Yeah. Will Mallory's blocking is not exactly ideal anyway.
It was good last game. He did a good job last game.
He also whiffed and gave up a sack on one of the plays. But yeah, I mean, he's okay here and there. And look, Elijah Arroyo, I think, is potentially a better downfield receiving threat than Mallory.
He's doing great. Jalen Knight is doing great.
There's so many young weapons. It's insane.
Well, Jalen Knight is doing great, so you don't want to take him off the field.
No, but all I'm saying is Xavier Restrepo is your second best receiver. I think right now he's playing better than Harley. I really do. Like, I don't know. I mean, you got to figure it out, man. Like, it's the same bubble.
They're different. Harley and Restrepo are kind of different. Harley's a little bit more of a speedy guy. They're running different plays.
Harley's a straight line speed guy. Restrepo's a quick.
They're using him on bubble screens.
But with Tyler Van Dyke, it just seems like he and Restrepo click. That's all I'm saying. He and Restrepo click. It doesn't seem like Harley's targeted that much. And, some quarterbacks just like to look for a certain guy in certain situations. And it just seems like, look, if Van Dyke is sitting down with Rhett Lashley and being completely honest in those one-on-one meetings, if they had another one, and if Rhett Lashley asked him, who would you rather see on 3rd and 8 in the slot, Mike Harley or Xavier Restrepo? I feel like I know the answer. I could be wrong. But, like, if that's the answer, that guy's got to be playing 80% of the snaps. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting debate. I mean, they do have a lot of playmakers, and the one thing I've noticed is they're not using Harley down the field this year. One game that comes to mind last year was the NC State game where Dyke King hit Harley on that deep route and that he scored a touchdown on and ran up the steps at NC State. We haven't seen Harley deep down the middle of the field yet this season. We might yet here in these last few games.
Well, this is exactly what I'm saying about the quarterback. I think Dyke King and Mike Harley had that bond where Dyke King looked for Mike Harley. Whatever the play call was, whether Harley was supposed to be the second read or not, he'd come off that first read real quick to get to Harley because he knew that he and Harley had that connection. And it just seems like Van Dyke and Restrepo are developing that connection. So like you've got to take advantage of that, especially a young quarterback who is comfortable. You've got to keep him comfortable. That's just to me, like I hope Lashley has an honest conversation at some point soon with Van Dyke about like what receivers he feels like super comfortable throwing to, who he likes to see, that he likes to go to. It's important. It's important for a young quarterback to have receivers he trusts and likes to throw to. That's just my feeling on it.
Restrepo has 7 catches. I mean, that's
he's third on the team in receiving yards.
Right, 7 catches. I mean, that's a lot.
And he barely played the first few games.
But I mean, that's a lot, and it shows that Van Dyke is finding him and throwing it to him. And
half the game, he has 7 catches.
But I mean, he's also targeting Rambo a lot. Rambo's a guy that they've identified as a big play guy for them.
So I think he's the second best receiver on the team, not the best receiver, but I think he is the second best receiver right now.
Yeah, I mean, Keyshawn Smith isn't getting a lot of opportunities.
Harley's big plays here and there. Keyshawn's a 2 to 3 catch, 80-yard guy. Like he makes those big downfield catches. I think he's leading the team in yards per catch. But Restrepo, I can't remember the yards after catch, but it's ridiculous his yards after catch. Like he turns a quick pass against a blitz into a 20-yard gain, and that's like what a young quarterback loves because like, you need to get the ball out quick. He's quick, one-on-one. He's going to get open and, like, get him the ball and he makes those yards. Like, that's what you need, man. Like, I just really, really have come to love Restrepo. I just think he's an outstanding player. And I was talking with another reporter yesterday about it. Like, he's one of those Wake Forest. I think you mentioned this. He's like one of these Wake Forest guys where if he was on Wake Forest, he'd be first team All ACC.
No doubt.
So why can't Lashley, like, sort of bottle that into his own system a little bit,
Yeah. Well, I mean, but I mean, they are using him. I mean, like I said, 7 catches. So, that's why you're saying what you're saying is because he is getting used and he is getting targets. All right. So, Miami plays Georgia Tech this week, and they're 3-5. They're disappointed in Atlanta. I mean, they really are. They're starting to get some heat on Jeff Collins. I don't know if I would say he's in jeopardy of being fired right now, but they're a little disappointed that things aren't moving along a little quicker. And this is a team that's going to come into Hard Rock Stadium and lay it all on the line. And nobody expects them to win, and nobody expects them to be competitive. I think they could be, and I think this is good. This could be another ACC Coastal brouhaha kind of game. I mean, they have a quarterback who's elusive in Jeff Sims. They can, if they come in with a good game plan against the Miami defense, they're going to be able to do some things. You'll remember in Manny Diaz's first year, Georgia Tech came in and pulled an upset, and I wouldn't sleep on Georgia Tech. Let me put it this way. I mean, I'm a little bit more concerned about Virginia Tech and Florida State than I am Georgia Tech, but I wouldn't sleep on Georgia Tech either. I think that they're going to come in and play a representative game. And the big thing, Matt, with Georgia Tech, when you look at everything about them, is they're just struggling with consistency. I mean, they had a game where they put everything together and they just blew North Carolina right out of the stadium. That was impressive. But they haven't been able to replicate that.
I mean, I'm not going to, North Carolina's had horrible games last year against FSU. Like, North Carolina shows up some games and doesn't other games. They're inexplicable. I don't really care about them. But, I mean, look, I just tell it like I see it, so I'll just do that right now. I mean, it's why, hey,
they're terrible.
People, one guy called me, he said I'm a hater or whatever. But then he actually came back and he apologized. And he's not a hater anymore. So
some guy comes at me today on YouTube and says, "Hey, Gary, you're not God." Like, dude, we're sitting here talking about football, and he's telling me I think I'm God. Like, what is he talking about? Like,
well, okay, I'm not going to debate whether you're God or not, but I will debate this, and I truly believe this. Okay, this is just the truth as I see it. So, like, you asked about Georgia Tech, and I don't look at it as can Georgia Tech win or not win. I mean, certainly on paper they should not win. But here's the truth of the matter. Any game that is remaining where Miami's offense falters for even 3 or 4 drives in a row, they have a chance to lose that game because Miami's defense is that bad. And, like, you can fall in a 10 to 21 point hole, 0 to 10 to 0 to 21 in the matter of 4 series where your offense just, for whatever reason, a penalty on the O-line, a sack, whatever it is. So, like, it's so hard. And this is probably why, Dr. whatever his name is that does the picks is having trouble figuring out if Miami's going to win a game or not because it's almost arbitrary. Like, if the offense just has one penalty here or something that sets them back or whatever, like, all of a sudden, a couple in a row that aren't so good. Now you got 3 series where you didn't score and, like, you're trying to come back from a 17-point deficit or something like that.
Like the Oklahoma State game in the bowl game last year.
So Miami can lose any of the remaining games for sure. Do I think they're going to lose to Georgia Tech? Well, Georgia Tech's not good. Like, you can look, the Miami coaches and Ferman can say, Georgia Tech has the potential to win. They put it all together and they look really good at times. But, like, they're not good, man. Their defense is awful. Like, Tyler Van Dyke and the running game alone should put up 500 yards in this game, no problem. As long as
they did blow out North Carolina. So that tells me that they are capable.
North Carolina has these games every year, man. You can't just point to one game like that.
But what I'm saying is they're capable of putting a game together.
Every team is, of course.
Right.
Of course. So anyway, my point is,
and they're desperate. They're going to be playing hard. They're desperate.
Every team is from here on out. But my point is, Miami, it's just on the offense. Like, you can't. It used to be, if the defense gets a few stops, the offense can put up a few points here and there, and you'll win, eke it out. Like, no, not anymore. Like, the offense has to score 30 or more points every game, or they are going to be in danger of losing that game. And to expect your offense to do that much every single game the rest of the way, like that's going to be one of the top offenses in the country, which this may be now with Tyler Van Dyke. But like if you falter in one of these games for 2 series, like I said, like you're going to be in a dogfight and you might lose. So, so that's my perspective, not just on Georgia Tech, because to me, Georgia Tech and the rest of the schedule is all the same. These are all inconsistent, pretty bad teams Miami has on the schedule. None of them are above 500, not one of them. So like it's going to just be on Miami's offense. Do they score pretty much every other series or not? And if they don't, it's going to be a close game. And if they do, they should win because Miami's defense, the other teams are bad enough where they're going to stop themselves. So
and they're all desperate. The one thing I'll say is they're all desperate teams, and I think they're all going to come after Tyler Van Dyke, and that's going to put pressure on the offensive line. And can they hold up?
Listen, Tyler Van Dyke against this is why I got to use guys like Restrepo. Tyler Van Dyke against Pittsburgh's blitz, and they tried to do all sorts of stuff to confuse him and rattle him, including like hitting him late. Nothing phased that guy, and he was better against the blitz than he was when they didn't blitz. I have no problem with them sending people against Tyler Van Dyke. He is like amazing under pressure. He actually seems like he prefers it. When he knows he has a one-on-one with a guy in the outside or in the slot versus, there's all this confusing, they're dropping 5 and like, what do I do now? Like there's safety help over here. The safety's running over there. He's got it easier in his mind when they all blitz him, like all out blitzes or blitzing 2 or 3 at a time. Like he loves that, man. He eats that for breakfast. Like,
all right, but
that's his thing. But that's easy.
I'm going to throw a button here, Matt. I'm going to throw a butt in here. And Pittsburgh, that front on Pittsburgh was undersized like crazy. They just weren't very good. And I think that, Georgia Tech and Virginia Tech are going to have better defensive lines than what Pittsburgh had. And we'll see. We'll see how it works out. But I do think they'll come after Van Dyke. I really do.
If by come after mean blitz, they're going to be very unhappy with the results.
Yeah, I think they're going to try to speed the game up for him. And, that's an obvious strategy. And,
he does very well again with one-on-one on his receivers. He's very good at that, identifying that. It's when they drop. It's when they fake blitz and drop, he's going to have a lot of problems. Teams haven't figured that out yet. Hopefully they don't listen to me. But, like, that's where he's going to struggle. That's where he's going to struggle because he has these pre-reads where he thinks that, this linebacker's blitzing and this safety's blitzing or whatever, and he knows which of his guys will be open in that scenario. And then all of a sudden a D lineman drops or a linebacker drops into that gap. And now, oh my God, what's my second? Who's going to be my outlet, whatever. Like that's where it can slow him down. But if they blitz, there's, I think he'll beat it easily.
If that happens, Miami will run the table. If he can hold up under the pressure, they will run the table. And then then that's going to open up the whole other debate that everyone's been having about the future. And, we'll save that one once we see what happens. All right, let's see. Also on the website today, we've got a couple recruiting updates. One is on an offensive lineman from California by the name of Jackson Brown. And this one's interesting, Matt, because Jim Kelly is friends with the kid's dad and has been, trying to put the kid on Miami's radar for a while. They finally went ahead and I believe offered him, and now he's considering Miami. How serious do you think this Jackson Brown situation is, for the Hurricanes?
I mean, look, what's troubling to me is like say goodbye to Agbo and Amama is basically what all it says. I mean, they sent out 2 offensive line offers down the last couple of weeks to just like 3 stars, and not that stars matter, but 3 stars or less. And like, look, the kid likes Miami for sure. He likes Miami. Like, his dad wanted Jim Kelly to get the kid a Miami offer. They just didn't give it to him until now, when they're desperate for linemen. And look, he'll visit. He might fall in love with it here. Like, what's not to love? You get Manny Diaz and Blake James, right?
So your point is well taken, though. This is Plan B. It's Plan B.
So listen. Look, I watched the kid's tape. I personally think he's deserving of an offer. He was a kid who didn't play until March of this year at all on the varsity level because of COVID in California. He looks really good. I don't know why he didn't get an earlier offer from Miami. I think he should have. I got no problem with his offer, but in general with Plan B kids, don't take them this year. I'd rather they go in the transfer portal and take these kids who are going to be here for a year or 2, and then they're going to jettison them, or kids will leave because they're not playing. Like, go Plan A or go transfer portal from now on. Like, to me, that's it. Like, I'm done with these Plan B and C offers. Oh, we didn't get this top kid we wanted, so let's look around the country and start looking at film. And, oh, this kid's okay. Let's take a chance on him. Maybe he'll develop in a couple of years. No, like, go in the portal for that kid,
Speaking of the portal, Quentin Williams went into the portal yesterday.
Every kid who's a backup and doesn't see a path to playing in the next year, They just tend to leave.
Heck,
That's
like,
modern
we wouldn't
football.
have even known this kid was on the roster. Like,
You remember when people used to wait 3 or 4 years to play and were fine doing that? You remember those days?
yeah, but like we wouldn't have even known he was here. Like that's what like is
He's
so.
still so young. He's in his second year, right? I mean, am I wrong?
I understand, but if you're recruiting a
give
kid
up
that
in
you
your
don't
second
even
year.
know is on the team, basically, and he's going in the portal after being on campus 6 months, that is a recruiting mistake.
It's not a recruiting mistake. It's a personality mistake. Any kid who gives up in the middle of his second year is ridiculous.
It's part of recruiting, Matt. That's part of evaluation.
Right,
I mean, it's a recruiting mistake, and
obviously, if the kid leaves, it's a mistake. You know, all I'm saying is they look. I mean, so I was talking about this too. Like, do you think Jake Garcia sticks around? Because listen, he went to 3 high schools his senior year. He was committed to another program, then changed it to Miami. Like, if he doesn't see a path to playing in the next year and a half, is he okay?
No, he won't be okay. If he loses out next year to Tyler Van Dyke, I agree with you. He'll go to the portal.
Well, that's a big problem. I don't know what they do about that because you've got to have that kid in your program.
I agree, it's a big problem. I'm the one that said I think if a new coach came in, he would go in the portal and get a quarterback just to fortify the position. I don't think you can count on Jake Garcia staying.
You keep saying that. What kind of quarterback's going to come here to sit behind Tyler Van Dyke for 2 years?
A veteran guy that thinks he can win the job. I don't know. Like, I mean, look at the Anthony Brown kid that went to Oregon. He sat behind the starter for a year, and now he's the starter this year.
Wasn't that when the rule was you had to sit a year no matter what when you transferred? Now it's
no. He played a little bit, but he was coming off an injury, and
did he redshirt or not that year?
The year didn't count.
Right.
So he had another year to play this year, and he's starting for Oregon this year.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of
for some reason you know way more about Oregon than I do. I don't know why.
Well, I watch their games. Yeah,
I know.
I know. Yeah, I do know a little bit about their team. I mean, I'm interested because I want to see how they're doing and stuff. But but he's an example for sure. I mean, there's all kinds of situations in the portal. My point was a recruiting mistake, and this is what has been the problem at Miami. It has been about recruiting. It has been about evaluation. It has been, you go back every summer, we do the State of the U series, go back and look at the recruiting classes going back 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years, whatever. This has been a problem at Miami for a very long time. It's what's holding the program back from getting above the middle of the pack, ACC, win some, lose some, that we're seeing every single season. And, got to do better than that. Can't be making these type of recruiting mistakes that have you end up essentially with half of a recruiting class after 2-3 years, which is like being on self-imposed probation. And that's what's been happening. That's what they have to fix. That's why if they do end up replacing Manny Diaz, the number one criteria for the new coach has to be recruiting, in my opinion.
I'm going to disagree with you slightly. Obviously, it was a recruiting mistake. But we covered the team back when they were great, and they made every recruiting class where they signed 25. There were 10 kids that were recruiting, quote unquote, mistakes, but they didn't transfer in those days. So you didn't really notice it. You just thought they were depth. They helped in the practice, the practices. They got their team ready to play, whatever. Now that everyone just leaves right away, it's so much more obvious the recruiting mistakes. So I agree it was a recruiting mistake. The question is, how many recruiting mistakes do you make? Because out of every 25 kids you sign, 15 of those kids need to contribute at some point in their careers as starters or key players. And I don't mind those 10 that don't. Not everyone's going to start in every recruiting class, period. But those misses, you've got to, hopefully have them stick around just to help in practice and to help in competition and whatever. Nowadays they just leave and you got to fill them back, those spots back in with transfer portal kids or new freshmen or whatever. And it's not the end of the world. But it doesn't bother me as long as they're hitting on that 15 out of 25 number. I'm fine with that, All
right, you're making disagreeing with me a sport, and I get it. It's fine. But let me read you a quote from Georgia.
I read the quote. I agree 100% with that quote.
Let me just pull out a couple bullet points for you.
He got that quote. First of all, Kirby Smart got that quote from me, because that's exactly what I've been saying for 2 years now. But go ahead.
Yeah, he says if you don't recruit, there's no coach out there that can outcoach recruiting.
Correct.
Okay?
I
don't care who you are. The best coach to ever play the game better be a good recruiter, because no coaching is going to outcoach players. This is the guy with the number one team in the country, who's obviously got probably the best roster in the country this year. And he says it's 25% evaluation, 50% recruiting, and the last 25% is coaching. And
Listen.
I'll leave it at that. That's the bullet points. But the bottom line is recruiting evaluation is 75%. Wait one second. 75%. The number one team in the country, the coach of that team says that 75% of the key to success is recruiting and evaluation. That is where Miami has been abysmal, Matt. And that's why
let me ask you a question.
We're talking about this constantly.
Let me ask you a question. Who on this Good Morning CaneSport show has said every freaking time, it doesn't matter if Manny Diaz is the coach next year. What matters is you have the players that are good. The coaching doesn't matter unless you have the players, the talent.
Players first.
And if this team has that young talent, it has the young talent. You're saying they don't. I'm saying they do. You're like,
no, I'm not saying they don't. They do have the talent.
No, you said this roster is not good enough. I keep saying it is.
Not close to good enough.
I keep saying it is.
You're talking about young talent from one recruiting class, Matt. One recruiting class. You're talking about young talent. The best teams in the country have this level of talent from 5 recruiting classes.
Did you not hear what I said in several of these, whatever they're called, vidcasts, podcasts, dumbcasts? What I said is they have the young talent, fill in the gaps with talent from the transfer portal, and they can win a heck of a lot of games no matter who the coach is next year. It's exactly what Kirby Smart said, basically, with all your bullet points like, I don't know that. Like, it's my formula. Kirby Smart stole my formula. I want my formula to be patented, and I don't want Kirby Smart stealing it anymore.
Listen, with all respects to Michigan State and what they've done this year is amazing. I mean, to think that Miami's going to build a team just on the transfer portal, like, I think that's a pipe dream. I think they got Tyrique this year because he's from South Florida. They got DeAndre Johnson this year because he's from South Florida, and he's been just the rotation guy. He hasn't been an impact player by any stretch of the imagination. Tyrique, I think, has been an impact player because he's developed this year. But you got to be able to recruit, man. And I mean, and recruit traditionally. They had one very, very, very strong recruiting class last year. Those are the kids we're seeing: Cam Kinchins, James Williams. That is making a difference, no doubt. The good teams in the country, the ones that are competing for the national title in the playoffs, they've put 4 or 5 of those together, and that's what I'm saying. Miami has to get to that. They are not doing that again in this cycle. It's not even close to that. Would you agree with that? That right now, what we're looking at in recruiting is not close to that level.
Recruiting a high school kid is a 3-year out endeavor. When you recruit a kid, you're not saying, what can he do for me as a true freshman? You're saying, let's probably figure year 3 is when he's really going to be a difference maker. So you keep talking about recruiting this year like it's going to suddenly fix Manny Diaz's problem. I feel like they need 6 transfers on defense, okay? 2 defensive linemen, probably 3 linebackers, and a cornerback. I feel like on offense, they don't need that much, okay? I think they're
offensive linemen.
Yeah, if they can get a great one, for sure. But they don't need that much. Other than the offensive line, I don't think there's really
and a number 1 receiver, Matt. They're losing Ram. They're going to lose Rambo.
We like the young receiving talent. So they're not that far off. And guess what? The rest of the players on the team are young when you look at the rest of these guys. They're all basically either qualified as freshmen or sophomores. Like, I don't understand why you keep saying the roster's no good. You're
talking about having to get 10 impact transfers.
But you're not getting it out of your recruiting
class. Have a chance to get out of this win some, lose some mode.
You keep saying this recruiting class is what they need. No, it's going to do nothing for next year. You got to win now, man. Manny Diaz, you blow up the program next year without the transfer portal. Bring in all these great freshmen. Even if they aren't going to win, won't do anything.
But they aren't going to win enough to make Manny the head coach here for a long period of time unless they get 10 impact transfers out of the portal.
Right.
They probably need about 10 of them.
That's their only chance.
Correct.
Freshmen aren't going to be the answer this year.
That's a lot. That's a lot.
Okay, so what's your answer? Bringing in 10 freshmen who these top?
No, they don't have a choice. They can't recruit the freshmen. The freshmen aren't coming.
So what's your answer? What are you telling me?
They got to go to the portal.
Okay, that's what I've been saying.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean they're going to get the 10 best players in the portal.
They have to try. It's the only path to success.
Of course they have to try. I'm saying it's tough. It's going to be very difficult. It's going to be tough to find 10
You build long-term through recruiting, you build short-term through the portal, and you meld both together in the big picture.
Okay,
that's what you do.
Look at the offensive linemen they've gotten from the portal. Jared Williams has been okay. I mean, he's been okay. Justice Oluwaseun and Tommy Kennedy.
Listen,
Osmond Traore. I mean, you're not getting elite players.
Correct. What offensive line in the ACC is so great right now, though? They're all going to the SEC. These linemen.
I agree.
It's the average lineman.
It's the ACC, but
an average portal lineman in the ACC is a good lineman in the ACC because the ACC linemen suck. So you just got to be average with everybody else.
I think they're going to have a hard time finding 10 impact guys in the portal. I think we're looking at a 2022 season exactly like this one: win some, lose some, and we'll be having. And if Manny Diaz survives this year, we'll be having the same conversation next year. That's what I am expecting to happen.
Could be true. Certainly could be true, but the only way to possibly strike gold is my formula that Kirby Smart stole from me.
Well, I agree with Kirby Smart, so I guess that means I agree with you. That's an extent to that. All right, so that's Jackson Brown. We got a little off the beaten track there, but we also have a recruiting update on Anthony Lucas. Now, this is a kid that's one of the top defensive linemen in the country. He says Miami's hanging in there. His dad went to Miami, so Miami had a built-in edge coming into the season. LSU, Texas A&M, USC, UCLA. He's going to Alabama. I think Miami's chances are tough here. I mean, the dad acknowledges that he was bothered very much by what he's seen this year, and we'll see what happens. But I wouldn't count on Anthony Lucas being in this class. It's a shame because Miami did have a built-in edge coming into it in that his dad went to Miami. But we'll see what happens there. You can catch up on that on the website as well. If you missed CaneSport Live last night, we got the podcast on the website tonight. Programming note: 8:00, the Lamar Thomas Show. We returns and guest list is coming together. I know downtown Eddie Brown, a guy that was a big guy for Howard Schnellenberger back in terms of building the Hurricane program. He's going to join us on the show. Lamar's got, I believe Dale Dawkins is another one that's coming on. So there'll be a few more. So the Lamar Thomas Show at 8:00. Make sure you tune in for that. And I guess that's going to do it for today. I think we've given you enough to chew on here in the last 37 minutes. So for Matt Shodell, I'm Gary Ferman. Thank you for joining us today on Good Morning CaneSport. We'll see you tomorrow, everybody.